Okay, now all we gotta do is wait for people to show up. Hey, everybody, just waiting for people to show up on the counter. Yeah, sometimes that happens as they get caught up there. And give them yep, here, we got somebody. Got somebody on the hook. Um, as soon as our numbers filled up a little bit, I have Kim here. We're going to go over the what happened in court today. Okay, Tennessee showed up. So this laptop's doing things a little different. Yeah, we're just people are starting to trickle in. So I guess what we can do is start because what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of a Q&A. But just to yeah, and just what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to put something up in the scene. You're probably going to. We had an order given to us, and it basically says William Murtaugh, aka Whitey Bulger, and you and all your associates and blah 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 blah. Anyway, this is our resident troll wanting me to not be in the courthouse, and you know, I told her in a certain phrase to go pound sand that um, you know I'm going to exercise my First Amendment rights to produce the show. Now, let me see if I can get this out of here without screwing. Okay. Finally figured that one out. Let me get back in the comment section. And everybody's coming in. Let's see who we got. Hello, Pete. I'm going to go up and see who else is in here. We got a healthy number tonight. I've been told that someone's going to be bringing in some extra people, so welcome the newcomers. Upside Down is here. Mm-hmm. Broadbusters is here. Haven't heard from you in a while, Broadbusters. Welcome. And Team Rev It Up. Okay, now, today was jury selection day. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Kim give a little bit of a summary, and then we're going to open it up for everybody to ask questions, and she'll answer them, and so on and so forth. So, Kim, go let her rip.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We are here on our first report for the Neely Petrie Blanchard trial. Today was day number 1, which was jury selection and pretrial motions. So that was quite exciting. Just first, let me tell you about how Neely appeared and her demeanor. She actually looked very good. She had her hair up in a pretty bun. She had civilian clothes on when she was before any of the jury pool. She was not cuffed or shackled. She was allowed to get up at the podium, as the state was, to question potential jurors. She seemed happy. She seemed competent. She was quite capable when she was speaking. In my opinion, she sounded educated and she was friendly and warm. She was conversational to the jury. So I think that all of those things put together may, of course, slice against her NGRI defense, which, again, I said last night meant not guilty by reason of insanity. However, she really did quite a good job. One thing also I was expecting from a sovereign citizen who is representing themselves is that they're usually argumentative with the court or with the state. And I did not hear any of that today. Today, Neely was quite pleasant to everyone, including the potential jurors. She was making light, making jokes. Whenever the state would object, she did not interrupt the state at any time. And with regard to objections, she never argued with the court or spoke back. She accepted any objections that were sustained. And so I thought she did quite well in representing herself today. Where she kind of fell down, of course, was just simple things that any unrepresented party may have a pitfall is when you're choosing jurors, you don't know the questions really that are appropriate to ask. So I have some for instances. With regard to the jury, there's a few things I want to get to before I talk about some of her questions for potential jurors. Number one, she had some pretrial motions that were being filed by what the state called was some Canadian woman who was filing motions on her behalf. The court and the state had obviously both spoken with Neely about that before. The court reminded Neely that she had told her that any third party filings would not be considered by the court, would be struck from the record, would not even be acknowledged. So anyone that was filing things on her behalf, or hopefully she was maybe relying on to file things for her, really did her a grave disservice because she could have handwritten or filed those motions herself. But since she was relying on a third party Canadian woman to file those documents for her, they were all struck. So none of the issues that came in filed by some Canadian woman, as she was called, were going to be, nor will they ever be, acknowledged by the court. So poor Neely, right? Poor Neely. So with regard to her, she was also going to bring a defense of duress or compulsion. And what we learned today was that that is not an available defense under Florida law for intentional killings of another person. And if you think about it by definition, if it's a premeditated intentional homicide, it could not also be by compulsion or duress. So it's something that you had planned out or thought about ahead of time. So that under Florida law is not going to be an available defense to Neely Blanchard. So she's going to have to stick with the not guilty by reason of insanity. She also attempted several times to argue from common law and from the U.S. Constitution, and the court consistently but respectfully reminded her that she was in a Florida state criminal court, that was the jurisdiction. And just for anyone watching who has heard these sovereign citizen arguments, it's about jurisdiction and emoluments. I did not hear those typical arguments. So she did not make the typical jurisdictional argument, which was great, and instead went about it by trying to explain to the judge what common law how that would apply. The judge was extremely calm, not amused, and let her know that Florida law would apply, and actually common law to any lawyer would mean case law. So that would be statutory law interpreted by cases. So of course we do common law in Florida. With regard to the challenges for the jury, we talked last night about preemptory challenges and challenges for cause. There would be unlimited challenges for cause, and that would be a juror that would not be able to be an impartial or unbiased juror. And those are, of course, unlimited. And then there are preemptory challenges, and there was 10 plus 1 preemptory challenges because there was only one alternate to the jury. We have 12 jurors on the jury pool now with one alternate. And Neely did a nice job most of the time in voir diring this jury veneer or jury pool. She had asked if, on one occasion, she had asked if they had heard of QAnon. Actually, the state attorney who went first did ask that question if any of the jurors had heard of the term QAnon. And I'd say about half to three quarters of them raised their hand. Um, and all of them tried to explain that they did not have a positive view of that when asked specific questions, that they had heard about it on the internet or just heard the term or had seen clips about it, etc. They all called it a conspiracy theory. They all said they could not wrap their heads around anyone or that belief or that ideology. Some of them referred to it as a cult. So very negative comments about QAnon. The prosecutors also asked the jury veneer if anyone had heard of the term sovereign citizen, and only a handful raised their hand. There was a former cop on the jury pool, and of course, he had understood that. And other people that had heard of it had seen them on the internet, funny memes or other things, and were able to explain that they did not believe that they were subject to the laws of the U.S. government. Um, so that was interesting. Neely did have the opportunity at length. In fact, it was an unlimited time period given to Neely to question potential jurors. So she had probably more time than the state in questioning those potential jurors. The state attorneys, there were two, by the way, one female and one male. The male is Mr. Hunt, and the female is, what's her name, Amy?
Well,
The
Amy's
female prosecutor.
Mhm.
Okay, so another one's Amy. I forgot her last name.
Yeah, I forgot it too.
The female prosecutor, I believe, was taking the lead. She was about, I'd say, in her 40s, maybe early 40s. She had a very strong demeanor, strong voice. However, she was able to smile and be a bit relatable to the jury. You can tell in any first degree murder trial, you are going to be getting the best of the best of the prosecutor's office. They're usually the most seasoned prosecutors that the state has to offer. So they were both doing their jobs quite well. And then there were, again, lots of questions that Neely asked of the potential jurors. I'm happy to get into that later. At the end of the day, a 12 jury panel was chosen with one alternate. It was a mixed bag. I didn't count females to males. I did not see, and I can do that tomorrow. I'll give you more of a makeup with regard to the jury, with regard to females, males, white, black, things like that are things that I would notice. I'm going to be here for one more day, trying to get off Wednesday, but I don't know if I can be here on Wednesday. But for the most part, Neely participated. She was warm. She was friendly. On some occasions, almost gleeful. It's this weird demeanor. She's almost like a cheerleader. When she was finished questioning the jury, she was like, all right, I'm done, with this smile and this little whip of the hair and looking at the jury and looking at the judge. And, that was very confusing because she's sitting here on a first degree murder charge. So you can see how Neely Blanchard, we've all seen her, and you can see how she can instantly flip on a dime. She can be a cheerleader in one breath, and the next breath, be thinking that you are kidnapping her children or child trafficking and can shoot you in the back of the head 4 times. So that is why Neely would, in my opinion, pose a danger to the community, and I'm quite happy that she is locked up with no bond and is facing a murder trial right now. So now I'm just going to take questions, I guess, from Mert or anything.
Yeah, I'm going to add one thing to this. Now, after a lunch break, they came back and they did motions, various motions from the prosecution and from Neely, and her demeanor changed quite a bit. She became combative, argumentative to both the judge and the prosecution. So it began to come down, and I think we're going to see a personality change as the case progresses, um, because she wasn't under that much pressure today, but we're going to get into hearing all this dirty laundry, probably show pictures to the jury of the crime scene, which is quite bloody, and the coroner is going to do an autopsy. He's going to report on the autopsy and so on. So we're going to have uh, a change in demeanor, I feel, as this starts to sink into Neely, and she's going to have to deal with it both as a defendant and as a defense attorney, and answer, and trying to cross-examine and all this of all these state witnesses.
I'm hearing a question from
Okay,
my
Levi
friend
is
Levi.
asking, does it appear to you that Neely Blanchard has been practicing and research in preparation for the trial? I personally think she has. Kim?
I agree. I agree. She had she was taking copious notes during the course of the proceeding, but she also came with her list of questions. Even though the state would object on many occasions as to the substance of the questions she was asking the jury pool, she would, come back and be able to get right back on her feet and ask more questions. She was
Yeah.
also prepared with some case law that was clearly sovereign citizen, gibberish that was completely
that
irrelevant.
Black law or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she has, I was going to ask him this earlier, but it appears that she looked up how to question potential jurors, and it looked like she was following some kind of a bullet point script
Yes.
or something where
She did quite well. I was
Yeah.
impressed.
surprisingly well. I was amazed. And, and it's just, I don't know if I can handle myself in that situation, but she just glided right along. And she got into a thing about public speaking, which I thought was interesting. I don't know why she took that avenue. She was asking everybody if they've ever been in public speaking and how they feel about it. She also asked about, if you disagreed with the majority of people, could you speak up and get your point across? Um, as if we get into like a one juror holdout situation where it would lead to either a mistrial or repeatedly having to go back and be persuaded to um, reconsider your verdict to decide whether or not you're going to be the lone holdout for any verdict and throw this into a mistrial. So
At this point, I could go through some of Neely's voir dire questions. I typed quite quickly, so I was able, I'm a lawyer, so I'm able to bring a tablet in.
Okay, you're getting a question. Did Neely recognize you in court? And I don't think she did.
No,
Both
I don't think
me
so.
and Kim were sitting in next to each other, and we had a clear shot of the podium she was in. And I think she was so wrapped up in what she was doing, she wasn't paying attention to who was in the audience. She was very focused, and so because she looked directly into my eyes at one point, and she didn't flinch, react, or anything.
Same.
And the same holds true of Kim.
Yeah.
Well, she would recognize me before anybody. So,
I don't know how.
Anyway, so back to Kim. She can continue on.
All right, so there were some interesting voir dire questions, and those are the questions that a litigant would ask the jury veneer, the jury pool, to try to assess whether or not they could be an impartial juror and or whether or not they would want or dislike them on their jury. All right, so let's see.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, two questions were asked of Kim, and we both know the answer to that. Will they be able to call, or will she be able to call us as witnesses or new witnesses? And the answer is no. She would have to list all that and serve paperwork to us, and it's too late for that. The judge says that she's not accepting any more.
I would volunteer.
No, so do I. But and as far as Michael Flynn, I have no idea who that is.
I know who that is, and no Michael Flynn. None of the Flynn brothers were there today. And Donald Trump, I heard, was busy, so he couldn't come either.
Yeah, he had a previous engagement.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into some of these voir dire questions. Again, she was given no time limit, so if anyone is concerned or and on her side, if you're in favor of Neely and you were concerned as to whether or not she would have due process in her day in court, she was, and she did. She actually spoke more than the prosecutors and was given all due respect, and at no time was anyone arguing with her. At no time did someone treat her with disrespect or raise their voice to her. I think that she should have felt that she had a suitable day in court. Okay, so Neely did ask the question to the jury about if anyone knew about QAnon. The state attorneys had already asked the jury that, but she wanted to get hands up and give me your names, which was a little weird. She asked who the parties had, or who the jury had voted for, Trump or Biden. She was immediately objected to, and the court, of course, sustained that objection because you're not allowed to get into political beliefs, etc. And it was absolutely irrelevant. She asked if anyone served in the military. She asked who believes that serving in the military is amongst the highest of civic duties. Some people did raise their hand. She asked an interesting question. Does anyone know what an oxymoron is? And I instantly knew where she was going with this. The sovereign citizen movement will oftentimes not refer to themselves and deny being sovereign citizens, because if you think about it, sovereign and a citizen, to them, would be completely at antithesis of ideas. So that would be an oxymoron. That would mean like a big shrimp. It's things that are opposite but used in one word. So all sovereign citizens will oftentimes deny that they are sovereign citizens and say that that would be an oxymoron. So I knew that she was what she was getting to, but very few people raised their hand as to the question of does anyone know what an oxymoron is? All right. Then she asked them, does anyone believe that the mainstream news doesn't tell us the whole truth? And of course, that was objected to, and the court instantly sustained that objection. She asked if anyone knew what the term whistleblower meant. So if you spoke any bit of English and lived on this planet for more than 10 years, then you probably would know what a whistleblower was. So people raised their hand. And she asked if they knew that laws protected whistleblowers. And she was obviously objected to because she was trying to instruct the jury on the law, which was actually not the law. Even though she thinks she knows the law, she does not know the law. So she was objected to. That was sustained. It was an interesting question that I didn't know what it meant, and I forgot to look it up. She asked if anyone has heard of QTAM or QCAM. I don't know if it starts with a TAM or KAM, and it's QTAM action. No one knew what that meant. I study extremists. I speak on the subject. I consult on the subject to the government. And no, I had never heard of that. So that was news to me. One of the good ones. Has anyone ever heard of the Havana syndrome?
Oh, God.
Of course, objection as to irrelevant. And that was sustained. Then she went into some valid questions, such as who thinks that they could be fair and impartial, and would ask questions along that line to individual jurors. The public speaking question was really in my mind, and then she actually said it. Is everyone comfortable with public speaking? She actually voir each individual juror about whether or not they felt comfortable public speaking and whether they would be able to speak up if they were in a jury deliberation, and let's say the four-person and a group of people felt differently than the way they did, would they be able and comfortable to speak up to the others? That's where she was going. That is a valid question. And almost everyone said yes, they would be able to speak up, except one person. All right. She asked if anyone had ever served in the judicial branch, the executive branch, or the legislative branch. And even though the cop was sitting there and he had served in the executive branch, actually, maybe he didn't know that. He didn't raise his hand, but I noticed that. All right. Then she asked, what is the legislature?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Wouldn't law enforcement fall under judicial, and executive is like the president?
No.
Really?
Yeah, law enforcement is the executive branch.
Old dog learned new tricks tonight.
Yep. Then she asked
Park.
everyone if they knew what the legislature did. And of course, most people raised their hands. She asked people who were very uncomfortable to give a definition in front of others, which was a complete exercise in futility. Then she asked if they knew that that is how people exercise our rights, is through the legislature. And of course, that's your old Chris Hallett sovereign citizen argument. And I think Kirk buys into that sort of thing, Kirk Pendergrass. And of course, she was objected to, and objection was sustained. Um, she asked if who was proud to be an American, and when everybody raised their hand, she said, "Oh, good! It's good to see that we have a bunch of patriots in the audience." And so she got in that patriot thing, and that was just more of her cheerleader, rah rah, trying to be relatable and close to the jury, trying to be likable. But it really kind of fell flat. She then asked how many people were Christians. Clearly, that was objected to. That's an inappropriate question during voir dire. She asked if um, anyone believed that the government does things that they do, or has things within it that you don't really know about, so that the government's doing secret things. Well, I think everybody raised their hand because clearly there's classified information, and I really hope that the government does some things that we don't know about, or else we're probably in trouble. We wouldn't be a very safe nation. That was objected to, etc. And then she said, "Don't worry about whether or not about the government, because you are all protected. This is a high-profile case." And of course, the state went wild. Objection. The court admonished her, etc. There was no one sitting in the audience except 3 or 4 people. This was clearly not a high-profile case. And although Mert is press, other than him, there was no press sitting there. There was no extra security. No one cared about this trial, Neely. No one. So that sort of answered her question. She then asked anyone if they had ever felt anything positive about the QAnon movement. And no one raised their hand. Wow, no one. Who knew? She asked people what the definition of a cult was, etc., etc. Those are the type of questions that she was asking. But the court continued to state that apparently there was someone filing court pleadings and motions for her, and that it couldn't be her because she was sitting in the courtroom. And so they wondered if it was who? That Canadian woman again. Yeah, that one. That one whose everything she's ever written and ever filed in a court, written by who knows who, but she filed them. All of them are thrown in the trash can. So that was really bad advice to make Neely believe that everything you were filing was going to be acknowledged by the court. It was not. And the only person or people that would have violated Neely's due process rights are those who were advising her to fire her attorney, and who were advising her that they would file things on her behalf, and who were giving her guidance today. She could have done better doing a Google search of what to do today than listening to those freaks. Mert?
Okay, no, I was watching Task Force Shenanigans, and
Oh, good.
this is something she has hacked this chat somehow, because every time I try to block her,
You know what? She
up.
doesn't deserve. She doesn't
No,
deserve
no, no,
anything.
no,
Let
no.
her just go. Who cares?
Because
Who
no,
even
what has
cares?
happened is I cannot block her because it says I cannot block an administrator or owner of the chat. So she has somehow hacked my chat to where I'm unable to block her. She is not welcome here. She's trespassing. I'm going to check with YouTube security and find out why I'm getting this notification that I cannot block her, because she's either an administrator.
Yep, we're calling the YouTube police. You hear that?
But because that's out now fraud. She's misrepresenting herself in many ways, and so
she's really not significant enough to even mention or think about.
task force ordered to cease and exist. Agent to principal. So you like throwing that warning out there?
Who cares? Let's move on.
But you're a child. You can't.
No one cares.
Even follow anything.
You know who cares? No one.
Everybody
no one cares.
Ignore task force. Don't talk to her. Don't say anything about it. Just ignore.
Zero people
That's
care.
The only thing we can do.
Zero.
Okay, let's get back on track. Okay, somebody had asked, and I left it up there, about Samu did. How many children does Chris Hallett have? And we don't know for sure. She's got at least one son, because he's been handling the estate, from what I understand. And so, there's that. And he may have grandchildren. We do know that this secret thing that Timmy talks about all the time is nothing more than a dispute with the state over child support. He had not been paying child support, and he was about ready to be disciplined through the courts for not paying his child support.
Yeah. And
So,
actually, the receipt, that famous receipt, it actually was just another futile attempt by Chris Hallett to appeal his child support orders, that he had been jailed for not paying child support twice. And um, so that's all that receipt belonged to, was that his own child support case that he fought so hard for not to pay for his children. So that was a nice guy, huh?
yeah, he turned out to be a deadbeat.
Yeah.
But just like Timmy.
I think that TN Lights had asked if I would ever represent Neely on an appeal. No, because I don't do appeals. I am a litigator. I'm a trial attorney. As you could tell, I can't keep my mouth shut very long. And that would be an appellate attorney who would handle appeals.
Yeah, they're specialized in that, correct? They know all the
Yes.
procedures, because the appellate court's a little bit different than your regular court. They run by a different rule set, and she even has to have grounds for appeal to even get there.
Okay, so someone, Shar, asked, was anyone there to support Neely? And yes, she had her mother and her sister in the courtroom. We didn't know that that was who was in the courtroom until, towards the end of the day when she referred to her. And actually, um, her mother, I guess Neely had filed a request to take judicial notice of a court document from South Carolina. And that's where a court from another state or jurisdiction, or even their own state, would ask a court to take judicial notice so that a particular court pleading or order could be shown to the jury, and it would be usually a certified copy, etc., for the jury to consider as evidence. And so, on one occasion, the court said that she could entertain those motions by Neely, even though they were filed last minute before the lunch break. So the court, bent over backwards to give Neely some privileges, I think, that no other litigants may have gotten if they had had an attorney, which is great. So the mother apparently had those documents out in the car. So Neely wasn't able to present the documents to the court when she was asking and fighting, for that motion. And the court allowed Neely, it's an alarm or something. The court allowed Neely's mother to run out to the car, and we waited or did other things while Neely's mother ran out to the car, obtained the documents from South Carolina, and then was able to hand them to the court. So clearly, her mother and sister were there to support her. There was another lady in court today. I don't know who that was. It was two women and a man. Didn't look like any of those people were together, but they were in court. The one woman and the man were sitting on the defendant's side of the audience, and then there was Mert and I and one other lady sitting on the state side. So I did not see anyone, make any audible assertions that would corroborate that they were there supporting Neely, other than her mother when she handed over the documents.
Yeah, the ringtone gets my attention. Yeah, and I can hear this thing a mile away. And I've had instances where I'm around a bunch of people and that thing goes off and everybody heads for the exits and think there's a fire or something. I don't approach principals in cases like this. Um, I'm not a professional media person, and I think it would be inappropriate of me to just approach someone like her mother. If she wanted to talk to me, she can approach me, but I will not aggressively pursue uh, people that are involved in events that I report. I'm there basically just to describe what's going on, offer commentary and so forth, and not do ambulance chases, so to speak, of various individuals that are prominent in the situation.
I did speak to the prosecutors after the hearings today. I went up to shake their hand. They instantly knew who it was. I was so embarrassed, but they, in a good way. They were very friendly. They knew that I had driven up from Broward. I let them know that I was there to listen to the trial because I research extremists and I consult for the government, and that I was thinking about doing a seminar for Florida lawyers and judges on left wing, I'm sorry, right wing extremists and left wing. Actually, there are left wing extremists, but what I'm concentrating on is the right wing. And I also told them that I was going to call the seminar QAnon without Q, because that's clearly the beliefs with the child trafficking and all of the beliefs that Neely is trying to interpose into this trial that she got from, I don't know who, but I don't think it was Kirk and Chris.
No, I don't. It's just that whole thing is a mystery how she went down that road.
And what is a mystery is who was really in Neely's ear? That's a good question we could all ask ourselves. At the time she committed the murder, and she has confessed to shooting Hallett, she's confessed to the court. And again, if you weren't here last night, if you're pleading not guilty by reason of insanity as a defense, you would have admitted shooting Chris Hallett. You've admitted to doing the crime, except you believe that you were insane at the time, so you should not be held criminally responsible for the intentional murder. So she has committed, she has admitted the commission of the crime. So what's interesting is we often wonder who was in her ear, who made her turn against Chris Hallett, who was in a position adverse to Chris Hallett that we know at the time, who was someone that talked all the time about child trafficking, who talked all the time about raping children and child trafficking who were in the DCF system and endochrome or whatever the crap that is. Who talked about that? And I wonder who was in Neely's ear at the time she turned against Chris Hallett, because I don't believe that Kirk Pendergrass was really into those things. He may have mentioned them, but he was more into the sovereign citizen movement. Chris Hallett surely wasn't. So I often wonder who was in her ear and could have sent her down the rabbit hole, possibly brainwashed her into believing that Chris was actually trafficking her children enough to want to actually kill a man. And whoever was in her ear that maybe struck that nerve in her should be ashamed of themselves. I think we could all agree.
Yeah, we get these people that accuse individuals of being pedophiles and all this, and there's an interesting case out of Minnesota, of all places. And this individual,
I've been there.
a guy my age, or not my age, he was in maybe his 50s. Um, Him and his friends had been tubing on this river. It's Red River, or whatever they call it. And it's a regular hangout for the locals, including teenagers and people under 20 and so forth that go there, and they get themselves, you know, loaded. And apparently the guy lost his cell phone. It dropped in the river, and he's looking around for it, and he just happened to be doing it around these group of teenagers. And, young and drunk, they started getting rowdy with him. They pushed him around. Uh, and at one point, they pushed him in the water, and I guess he was fearful of being drowned, and he had a knife. And this kept up for a while, and it was all videotaped. And suddenly he just lashed out He killed one individual, which he's under trial for right now, and severely injured four other people. And so he's basically doing a self-defense, stand your ground argument. And uh, it's going to be an interesting contest to see how this comes out. We have had a number of these cases here in Florida with stand your ground. The case in Sanford, Florida, is a good example of that. Black kid running around in the apartment complex happened to have an aunt that was living there. This guy comes up who was a self-appointed neighborhood watch and killed him. And there was a guy that got mad because somebody did something in a movie theater and he got stabbed. So and he got shot, and the guy was an excellent ex-cop. So we're getting to see these stand your ground laws, and the one up in Minnesota is interesting because it's somebody saying that you're a pedophile. And so people that get called pedophiles are starting to fight back. And I don't know if the guy's going to win that case or not. I got to check and see what the status of that trial is because it could go either way. Because I think he overreacted, but then again, you're got all these drunks over the top of you, and you're getting, taking water right on your back because you're fear of drowning, fear you're going to get killed or seriously injured. And the fact that he was able to even get up and defend himself against these young and strong um, teenagers is, because these were, mostly male. There were a couple women there, and you know, they're stronger than that. And there's a guy, older guy that's not in the best of shape physically. So it's kind of like he was outnumbered, outgunned, and all that. So
I see a great comment by a Shar. Tell us how that helped the children of these two people. That's exactly right.
yes,
And whoever was in Neely's ear, that surely did not help her children, Chris Hallett's children. That changed everyone's life forever, especially if you think about Neely's children.
mm-hmm.
If you are on Neely's side, you
Yeah,
have really done her in.
Yeah,
You have done her in with regard to your advice. She is most likely, the odds are, she will end up spending her life in prison.
Mhm.
An attorney may have been able to give her that one chance of perhaps getting off of these charges or having some sort of a lighter sentence. So they have done that by encouraging her to fire her attorney, making her suspicious of her attorney, making her feel like her attorney was working against her and they were her experts. That was the worst. If you hated Neely, that's what you would do. If you love Neely, you would never want to do that. So that didn't help Neely. And by making Neely so paranoid about Chris Hallett and about child traffickers taking her children, who did that help? She killed Chris Hallett. His children will go forevermore, and grandchildren, never seeing their father.
Mhm.
Even his former wife will never collect that child support. And Neely's children will, never probably see their mother except through plexiglass until she gets into a state prison where there could maybe be some visits. But they won't live a life where they ever get to see their mother on a Christmas or a Thanksgiving and have her at the dinner table, or for her to see a graduation or a school play. And that's what these people are doing to people like Neely Blanchard and others, is their advice, their spooky conspiracy theories that are wholly false or absolutely false, are ruining lives. And when you ruin a parent's life, you're ruining a child's life.
Yeah, and I kind of feel sorry because the mother of Chris Hallett lived in the other side of the duplex, and
Yeah.
and it had to be the sheriff that told the mother that her son was murdered next door that very night, and
That's right.
she went into shock. She at the time she was in her 90s. I don't even know if the woman's still alive. This could have.
Yeah, I'm seeing from TN Lights.
No,
Was
Neely's husband was not in
mm-mm.
court. The only person there of the family was her mother and her sister. That was it. The husband, he might be deployed with the Coast Guard. They usually go out a month or so at a time up there.
And Ronnie Knowles, the guy that is always so in love with Neely, he's so smitten with her and gets new tattoos of with her name. He was not there either. Interestingly enough.
It was a very empty courtroom. It's a courtroom that can seat about 50 to 75 people, and the only time it got full is when they brought in 36 prospective jurors,
Hmm.
and that when with and brought up maybe a total of 40 people in the courtroom, and then it went back to four,
That's
and
true.
then down to two.
So for this high-profile case, no one was there. It was crickets,
You know,
except me typing.
for something, it's just another day and another murder because they've got another murder case where a guy killed his wife, and he's in prison, no bail. You
And
don't get bail on capital murder.
that's right. And what kept striking me today was that Neely was learning a very hard lesson in real time, that all of the sovereign citizen type beliefs that she's ever been taught, and in fact, she believed that she was actually a teacher and an agent for E-Clause at one time. She was gung ho about it. She was all in on the Chris Hallett and Kirk Pendergraft ideologies, which I would call sovereign citizen. I know they don't, but to most legal professionals, those types of beliefs fall within the genre of a sovereign citizen ideology. So that's why I call it that. But again, she was learning a very hard lesson, that all of a sudden there's fun, there's games, there's sovereign citizens, there's, you know, um, talking about emoluments and jurisdiction and forcing the judge to do this and that. And all of a sudden, none of that worked. Nothing worked that she had ever learned. Nothing worked that she was ever told by Chris Hallett and Kirk Pendergrass. That was clear today. The judge would not humor any of those arguments, explained to her in no uncertain terms that that was not Florida law, that in the courtroom that they were in, she had to follow Florida law. None of the case law she brought was even remotely relevant, or they had to do with federal statutes. So it was a very sad thing to watch, is this person who had wholeheartedly believed in this movement and had been taught that these things actually did work, was sitting there with her life on the line, and nothing she had ever believed in was working. And that was her reality today.
Yeah, Kirk Pendergrass did not come up on the witness list, so I don't know if they're even going to use his stuff at trial. Um, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. And it's just you find out when you go to a trial like this how unknown this whole situation is. There's only
Mhm.
a small hive over there on Telegram and Rumble and BitChute that pay attention to this stuff.
True.
And then the vast majority of the people don't care.
And they don't know about it. Vast majority of people
And
don't
they
even
don't
know,
know about it.
especially in a county like Marion County, which is rather rural, although it has a very cute downtown. The courthouse was beautiful, it was big, but rather empty. And I believe that Marion County does encompass many different towns and cities in this area. But in this particular town, we've got a lot of working people that do not have time to sit on the internet today or any day and read Telegram or watch BitChute videos. And I would venture to guess that no one on that jury pool would have been able to tell you what BitChute was. I'm going to guess that that is the case.
Yeah, that these people are TikTok, Vimeo, or on Facebook if they do that at all. Like these people, that's one of the reasons my count on here is so low is because I'm covering a topic that the general public is not interested in. Nobody cares about QAnon, and they don't care about our little trip war we're having between the blogs and everything. It's just, and so that's one of the reasons I'm going to be changing my venue going forward. Um, Once this case is done, I'm going to change the format of the channel a little bit. I'll still be doing cases, but in a different way. And see if I can salvage this channel real quick.
I just saw a great question by TN Lights, and it says, Kim, once Neely is convicted, can that prosecution be used as in part of a federal case for the other charges against other people? Yes, it can. And every time we have one of these trials or charges or crimes involving this group of people, you can bet that the government authorities, FBI, is who is monitoring these types of groups of people, they are taking notice. When you have one little group that has committed so many crimes, you bet that people are taking notice. And I personally do know that. So we'll see if there are any other shoes that I can personally get to drop.
Now, one thing about the QAnon that's kind of funny, you know, this call the supporting um, or disavowed QAnon. Timmy said that he infiltrated QAnon and it's a big fraud, it's a psyop, and all that.
After he
And
painted a Q on his car.
after he painted the Q on his car,
We should call him the 180 guy. The 180.
uh,
He hates Michael Flynn. He loves Michael Flynn. He hates Q. He loves Q.
but the thing of it is Neely is still deep into Q. She still believes in it, and the one guy that she thinks is trying to help her said, "No, it's a big fake. I infiltrated and said it's a big fake." And I'm just, stop and think. How long ago did he infiltrate this group, and when did he start disavowing them? Could there possibly led uh, Neely to wonder what what's the deal here? These people said that QAnon's the greatest thing in the world, and now they're saying that it's a fake, and she got mad. And, it's a possibility. You don't know that, but it's just that here you got QAnon, Neely trying to get it in, and Timmy's over there on the other side saying it was a slap. It's a big fraud. It was a false front and so forth.
L. Kennedy, you just asked a great question. Can Neely ask for an attorney at this point to assist her? Yes, she can. At any point, the court has reminded her at any point she could ask for the appointment of a public defender to assist her, or if she would be able to find a private attorney who'd be able to step in at this point. Absolutely, an attorney could come in at any time to assist Neely. And in fact, the court again, we started out again with the court encouraging Neely to allow the court to appoint a public defender for her, even today, to start the trial, to at least help her with the procedures and questioning of the jury, etc. And Neely said that and I typed it word for word, she felt that she would be at a more of a disadvantage with a public defender.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, very unfortunate when, I'm a lawyer, so I hear that, and it's so unfortunate hearing someone say that with their life on the line, looking down the barrel of life imprisonment. So, yeah, it's a great question. And yes, at any time, she could get an attorney, and a public defender would come in at any point in this trial, and the court has assured her of that.
Yeah, and the judge did state that she is going to ask this question every day of Neely. So that at any point she could change her mind. And she told Neely, I'm going to ask you every single day the same question. I'm obligated to do that because you have the right to have an attorney. And so, I don't know if she'll drive some sense into it or not. It's just, what can you do?
And I think that L. Kennedy also just encouraged, if Neely's family is watching, to please encourage Neely to take the court up on her offer and allow the court to appoint her a free attorney to assist her. Mm-hmm. And I could not agree with that more. Her life is on the line.
Yeah,
and we've already seen what the lady from Canada and others have done. They have literally put her at such a disadvantage. They've sunk her ship. They've filed motions that Neely has been told will never be acknowledged by the court. Mm-hmm. And now Neely can't file them herself. It's too late. Neely didn't know how to subpoena witnesses. her attorney would have. So, you know, if there's anyone who is going to be responsible in part for a bad day in trial or a deprivation of due process rights to Neely Blanchard, that would be the Canadian woman in that group. And there's no one that believes that more than the court.
Yeah, because, and the thing of it is, Neely's mother and sister were there. So maybe the judge is trying to talk to them too, to say, you got to get some sense into your daughter, sister to get into the reality and get a lawyer.
And Sam just made a great comment that please tell Neely to stop listening to Timmy, Randy, and Cuckoo,
Yeah.
that they are not her friends. And
No, they're not. I think these people are doing this for attention.
Great comment.
Yeah, that is. It's an excellent compliment because Neely has had problems for years, and somehow she got connected to these people and thought she had hope, got her hopes high that she was finally going to have this important guy in Florida get her children back. She found out that it was a pipe dream, got mad,
Yeah.
and that's the argument of the case. So,
right, and I do custody cases for a living. I try to get people's kids back, also from DCF, every day, every week. I'm in court trying to get people either retaining children for a family or trying to take children away from an abusive family. So there's no better way to do yourself in than to show your ass to the court or to DCF when they are going to be the ones that are making decisions about your children. And unfortunately, that's what Neely has done.
yeah, and so we are going to see.
Oh, there was an interesting and funny part. There was a funny part. What a funny part was that Neely was trying to get an emotion. She was filed a motion for judicial notice of a court order from South Carolina, the one that her mother had brought in from the car. And so the court graciously allowed her to litigate this late filed motion. And it was the order actually said Neely wanted it to come in because the order said, according to Neely, that she was deemed insane by the South Carolina court years ago, and that under the law, she said, that if she had not been deemed to be sane by any court, then she was legally still insane, which is a true premise. However, so the court read the particular court order, and she asked Neely, show me where this judge ever said that you were insane and found that you were insane. And Neely said, right there. He said that I am irrational and unstable. Too irrational and unstable to have my children. And the court said, that doesn't mean insane. She said, oh, yes, it does. That means I'm insane. So that was kind of a funny part. The court said clearly, no, it doesn't mean that you're insane because a court calls you irrational or unstable. So she lost that particular issue as well. And again, an attorney would have never argued these. And there were so many arguments if I were her attorney that, I could see, and I don't even do criminal law that much anymore. But I was just seeing a million arguments she could have made that could have saved some of the evidence from going into trial, including
the judge even told her, you're
so sad. So
but
sad.
She just
that she did not have proper representation and wouldn't accept it and believed that she would be at a disadvantage because of it. That is where she's at in her mind. And whoever made her mind think that should be ashamed of themselves because they just did their friend in. They're the worst thing that could happen to Neely in her life. And Neely's kids.
But, now that these third-party filings are not going to be doing any good for Neely, maybe
they never have. The court has never acknowledged.
She was convinced that you can I'll file these third-party things for you and you'll be
never allowed. It's not just for Neely. It's not allowed in any case.
I think she now that she has had this pounded in her thick head and she's sitting in a cell over across town, maybe she'll say, public defender / lawyer might not be such a bad idea. Yeah, I think that, it may slowly ebb in. Maybe her mother and sister will finally do something, and I think that's why the judge, kept it up for so long, is to maybe the mother and sister will say, let's get Neely help. Let's get her to have some common sense
Agreed.
because, you know, now I don't know what's going to happen with this.
And I don't care who you are, you deserve, your day in court, and you deserve proper representation and a
Hmm.
proper legal defense. And unfortunately, Neely will never see those two things because of her friends. With friends like that, who needs enemies, right?
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, Sam, that seems to be the gist of it because this is the fifth case now where the same group of people have been accused of interfering with a custody issue and have it backfire out. There was, we've got Cynthia Absug, and there was another mother daughter combination that was going to leave the state of Colorado, change their mind, go back. There was a woman out west that um, wound up going up to the state of Washington and got arrested. And, I don't know whatever happened to that case. And then there's a couple other, there's a guy that I think he drove his car off the road and he had kids in it, and it was all because of QAnon and this stuff going on. So it's and there's probably people we don't even know about that they've screwed their lives up. That's what Chris Hallett did. That's what David Straight did. David Straight, actually was trying to defend a pedophile of all things. The case that I think it was on Daily Beast, the guy was a pedophile and murdered his family. And here, David Straight's filing all these motions. Either for pedophiles or against them. And, we have the situation with Delphi, Indiana, where this guy's got all this stuff going on. They're over there saying that he got railroaded. And, yes, the guy is innocent until proven guilty, but he's had association with that uh, Chad guy, whatever his name is, that got caught with all that pornography on his hard drive. And, and he lived less than a mile away from the crime scene. And yet these guys are saying, oh, he got railroaded. He's being gone after by the deep state. And, I just, have an opinion of a case, but stay out of it. Don't go barging in, getting a hold of people and all this, because you're just going to make things worse.
I can say about people like David Straight. David Straight, I have to give him a compliment. He's a smart guy. He's a real smart guy. And aside from his extremist beliefs, he happens to be a normal guy. He would have made a damn good attorney. I can tell you that. I've spoken to him, uh, and we're clearly on polar opposites. But he's a smart guy, and I wish that he would have gone the other way. I'm sure he thinks that about me, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. A lot of the sovereigns are not dumb people. They're not dumb rednecks having stills in their backyards. These are
They spend a lot of time
hard-working
researching.
people.
They spend a lot of time. If they had spent that much time in, college or in law school,
Mhm.
They could have really done something with
I don't
themselves.
know how they get down this path, but they do. And
I don't know
and
if I think someone wanted you to discuss the confession video.
yeah, okay, yeah. I was reviewing that on the drive from Georgia or from Hallett's house to Georgia. Um, Neely called the lady with the spy pen. And
Kathy Watson.
Kathy Watson, thank you. Uh, mine's turning to mush tonight. And twice she said that I found out that they were not who they said they were, that they were really involved in child trafficking, and I had to stop them. That is a confession that she did something in regards to Chris Hallett. And since, and she said, I've lost my ID, I've lost my pocketbook, obviously it's at the crime scene.
Well, she said she had left it at the crime scene, and she apparently there's more parts to the some of the videos than we perhaps know, because they spoke about that confession tape today, and the prosecutor said she was trying to get it suppressed, and she had filed a motion to suppress, claiming that Kathy Watson was a clergy person, like a clergyman, was an ordained minister, and therefore the rule 90.505, which would you could exclude any communications with a clergy member. And so that was a great motion that she had filed and worth a try, but she didn't contain any of the normal standards or prongs that any lawyer knows, the four prongs of that particular evidentiary rule off the top of their head. She didn't contain any of that. She just said she's clergy. Well, that's not the only thing that needs to be proven if you're going to do seek the excluding communications with a clergyman. So she hadn't argued any of those. The state clearly had a case ready to go, and she had no evidence of any of the other standards of proof that she had to meet. So the court was not willing, of course, to grant that. And we don't know if Kathy Watson's really an ordained minister. She clearly works at some liquor place. Anyway, so
Yeah,
but the
she-
interesting thing was that the prosecutor was reading. First, Neely argued, "I didn't know I was being recorded, so therefore it shouldn't come in." The prosecutor acknowledged, as an officer of the court, I can tell you that the tape recording itself starts off with, "Am I being recorded?" Okay, and then Neely introducing herself. So clearly, Neely cannot claim that she did not know if it was being recorded, since she was heard audibly asking to be recorded and then making an introduction and making a speech to the world. And then on other parts, the state attorneys let the court know that Neely admitted shooting Chris Hallett on one of these tapes with Kathy Watson. And in fact, you can hear, and even Mert has played in the past, a audio that was a phone call taped by Kathy Watson, and it was to the Ronnie Knowles guy, that and said that, and she was telling Ronnie Knowles what Neely had just done, and she said Neely just shot Chris Hallett, and so Kathy had just gotten off the phone with Neely. So I think there are tape recordings that the state has that maybe the public could not get the complete copy of, but apparently they do have a full-fledged confession, not only saying, I had to stop them, but saying that she admits shooting Chris Hallett, that she shot him, and that she prayed about it beforehand, and all of these things. So if that's the case, they've really got her. They've got her with a confession, they've got her with premeditation, and then the only real issue will be clearly whether or not she can prove that she was suffering from a mental disorder or disease at the time, or infirmity, that would make it so that she did not know the difference between right or wrong, or that she did not know what she was doing at the time. And that's the standard in Florida for an NGRI defense, not guilty by reason of insanity.
Yeah, and the problem is she fired the lawyer that hired the expert that could have argued on her behalf, and now he can't testify. It's and he can't even sit in on when the other expert testifies. So she blew that one.
Yes, agreed. Okay, we've got another question. Oh, that was about the motion to suppress. I think we just did that. In any event, that motion to suppress the statement, the confession, a full-fledged audio confession to Kathy Watson by the defendant Neely, and it was a very well stated, well versed confession. She did not sound at all as if she did not know what she was doing, and she clearly knew that it was wrong. So that confession will be the smoking gun, so to speak, even though they also have the gun. And she lost that motion. So again, that was just a shame. If there had been a lawyer representing her, she would have had a chance to get that statement excluded.
Fired the lawyer. That's what this whole thing is about. She fired the lawyer.
And she was encouraged to do so by nefarious people.
Yeah.
A group of nefarious people.
She kind of shot herself in the foot with that. She she cooked her own goose, basically.
I got a question from Sam. Is David's wife, Bonnie, still in prison? I heard she got 5 years. Yes, she is in prison. I don't know. I know she got 5 years, but I think that she was going to be eligible to get out in like 3 or 2.5, 3 years. So she's been in jail, I'd say about a year. So yes, she is still in jail. They were unable to get her out. I know that David was attempting to file some appeals and things like that. I don't believe anything has been successful yet.
Yeah, he really went down the wrong road on that one. And I think there's an allegation that the same party that helped Neely actually turned David Street and Bonnie into Texas law enforcement, and that's how how Bonnie got arrested in the first place. Because somebody knew their itinerary and was able to give law enforcement the itinerary in a precise way.
I don't know who that could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess he's got to stay out of the county now.
All right, there's a question about Field McConnell. Kim, any info in Field? Still on probation? No, he is now off probation. It's my understanding he's doing quite well. He is having a ceremony in honor of Denise coming up in June. And he's actually invited me to come to his home. I appreciate that invite very much. It's my understanding he's doing well. His health is getting, better. I think he had some time there where, he got home and without someone to kind of take care of him, he had not been on his own for a long time. So he was not treating himself well enough and his health declined. But it's my understanding he's back on his 2 feet. He's got great friends in town. He's got great friends on the internet. Paula Blades and him have a wonderful show that they do on YouTube, and I believe it's on Rumble.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Paula, if you're still here, you're welcome to put in chat anything you want about it.
Yeah, why don't you, if we could, get the name of the show on
the link because of YouTube and the way.
Well, she could just let everyone know what the name
know
is. Yeah.
The gist of that. If people can Google it once they have something to Google by. Okay. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Field's doing good apparently.
Yes, Paula's reporting that she speaks to Field almost every day, and she's reporting that he's doing well. And their show is ALGN, which stands for A Little Good News, and that is Paula and Field's show. I think Field has turned around and really is a very different guy than he was before all that started.
Yeah, he wasn't into real violence against women except possibly Hillary. And he didn't like his sister too much, but
go get some water.
He didn't know Kim at all, so he got talked into this diatribe with Kim without even knowing who she was, and he really regrets it. So that's what happens when people just brainwash somebody. They turn a perfectly good individual into this violent shill, and he paid the price for knowing these people.
True.
He's got his life back in order. He's, just being an old dude with a lot of cars and a radio show to get on every once in a while. Yeah, he sure does. He's still He's still on this Whitey Bulger nonsense, and I don't understand that because that's such a provable lie. It's probably the most provable lies he's done yet, but he won't drop it.
It's
And I
ridiculous.
really don't care. I think it's stupid, and it damages his credibility.
Anyone who would believe that has to be a moron.
Yeah. Well, we know how many morons they got over there.
Shar is asking, Mert, are you going to video the trial?
No, I can't video the trial because the courts won't allow it. I can video outside the building, but I can't. They have very strict rules about getting in. I spent the better part of 2 months trying to get media access in there, and I talked to some of my friends in the local media, and they said that it's very difficult for that judge to allow TV cameras in the courtroom. Uh, well, he does already, and I don't have the patience of playing head games with that idiot. I mean, he can do Whitey Bulger until he's blue in the face because all he's doing is he's just showing everybody what a fool he is, what a fraud he is, that he has no credibility. He goes around saying he's a war correspondent, which is ridiculous. He says he's a witness for the FBI and then turns around and says the FBI is trying to get him and Neely and Trump and all this. So you can't make up his mind. Well, there's that possibility. I know that I was contacted by a group a while back because they wanted me to cut back on talking about this that know the family of Whitey Bulger. And, you know, no, absolutely not. Levi, it's even written you cannot record or videotape or take pictures in the courthouse, anywhere in the courthouse. And that includes the rooms itself. Um, I just they've had instances of where right in the middle of a trial, somebody will hold up a cell phone and they'll broadcast out, take pictures. And, there's such a thing as a decorum in the court, and they're very, very strict about it. Uh, yeah, that basically that's what Kim did. Kim was tweeting in court.
I was not tweeting in court.
Oh, you weren't tweeting in court.
I did not tweet in court.
I stand corrected.
I typed everything as fast as I could on my tablet,
Okay.
and I did not
Yeah.
tweet anything or use social media while I was in court.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected on that. So
You can check my Twitter.
anyway, yeah, I can report on it. I can take notes. I wish I had taken stenography. You ought to see this woman type. She's the Mario Andretti of the typewriter. So, and she's very detailed. So that's, when she goes back to Florida, I lose my stenographer. We're back down to Fort Lauderdale.
Shar just asked, Kim, are you doing a blog on this? No, I've never done a blog in my life, and I don't intend to start. I have enough to do. But
Yeah, it's the same here, Levi, because Orange County will allow it if you get proper credentials, which I went and did. Because remember, Neely Blanchard was televised through its entirety, and I was able to. They have a media room at the Orange County Courthouse that I was able to tap into. Uh, they had XLR plugs, they had RCA plugs, they had DNC plugs for your video, so I was able to transmit live directly from the courtroom through that press room, and I did that for quite a while, and until my schedule got all screwed up and I had to go back to doing my normal thing. I do just for amusement. Um, you know, I get sent the stuff. I usually don't go over there and look for it. People keep sending me this stuff. And so I go to see what the heck's going on. Well, that's good. She's a celebrity in her own right. So she did a lot of good with the Steubenville situation. So more power to her. Okay. Now the way this is going to work is tomorrow the trial in chief starts. Jury reports at 8:15. Court starts 8:30 sharp, and so we're probably going to have opening arguments, and we may even get into a little bit of production of evidence. Uh, Kim Levi's asking, would only any of the family show up? And basically, anybody can show up. Now, some of the family, the son is in Ohio. Now, I don't know what the rest of the family is, but they're more than willing, or the more, anybody can go into court and observe it. That's part of the Constitution that people have a right to view court proceedings. And if she is adjudicated guilty, the family has the right to make victim statements. Now, we had a trial where the parents of the mass shooter were both convicted of the legal liability out of providing him with a weapon. And there was people that got on there and did their impact statements. And there's been a number of cases recently where people have done impact statements, and they can get quite emotional. So yes, if they're willing to show up in court, they can watch the proceedings, and at the end, if there is a conviction, they can ask the judge to make victim statements. And this would, you know, persuade the judge maybe to be a little bit harsher with her. Although, she's going to get life without. That's a given, but there could be extra conditions in there uh, just to punish her a little bit more. I don't know how much the judge can do, but that's a possibility. Well, anybody, I think the situation is that these people are, in the case of all these families, they're scattered all over the place. And the mother has to come down from Kentucky to be there, and she's not a wealthy woman. I don't know what her income is or how she gets income. But these are not rich people, and it's expensive to come down here, you know, put your life on hold because your daughter slash sister is on trial for first degree murder. And, you know, I think somebody up there has custody of those children because there was a documentary made. And this is something I wanted to bring up that I forgot all about. That, the kids, interact, they do call on this weird service all the time. But in court, Neely was asking people if they watched the documentaries, and the one thing she asked directly is, "Have you watched the BBC documentary on QAnon?" And I don't know why she did that because she was in that documentary. They had Cynthia Ebbsug in the documentary, and they had it with her, and they even interviewed her mother, and all of that. So I don't, it's obvious they wouldn't allow it anyway, but she wanted people to know that, have you seen that? And there was the HBO documentary, and one that I highly recommend people watch is on Netflix right now. I believe it's called the Antisocial. And they did, this is a new information that's coming out about how QAnon came about and how their actions have destroyed people throughout the world, not just here, but throughout the world in so many aspects of life. I learned things about what QAnon has done that I didn't know that QAnon did it. So that's one that I would recommend people watch. Um, and just pay attention to all this stuff going on because people need to be uh, made aware of how these movements are created, who's creating them, and why they need to be disposed of just to go away because there's foreign agents involved in these things and there's these weird hackers on these dark internet websites like 8chan, 4chan, 8chan, and all this stuff. And it's just they just lie and destroy lives just for the hell of it. They have no purpose, no cause, no mission, no belief, except
I
just
think there's a
to
question
screw
from
around.
Twinkle Toast. Do you follow what Jesse and TCH have been posting on X about this trial over the last couple of days, especially? No, I don't follow Jesse. I think I know who you're talking about. No, I do not ever look at her tweets or social media. Um, and THC or whatever his name is, TCH, has no Twitter that I know of. I think he's been banned for a long time, and I don't follow his social media. People send me things all the time, and that's how I know.
And Paula is a good source of information on Jesse. She's been doing a lot of research into this nonsense and stuff. I read both of her um, websites, and I kind of follow it a little bit, but
I don't know that much about Jesse. I'm
I'm
sorry.
not really going to get involved.
Nor do I want to learn.
I'm
I've
just
had
going to
it.
observe from the outside. If there's a court case comes up where these people finally get indicted by a grand jury, then I'll cover it as a case of interest. But other than that, you know, I think a lot of what's going on Timmy's blog and social media are contributing by Jesse. I think somehow he got mixed up with her, and so that's where a lot of this promotion is coming from.
All I know is they sit there and compete on who can think up the grossest thing that could ever happen to a child. It always involves anal. It always involves rape. And it's just she now is even they're competing with what is the grossest possible thing I can imagine that could happen to a child. So that is, I mean, it's ridiculous, actually. I mean, it's horrendous and disgusting. But if you think about it, they just go grosser and it's like, where's the bar? They're surpassing every bar and they just make up complete fantasies. And if people can't see that, then fine, go ahead and follow those people and send them your money. I don't care. I, you know, I don't care. There's been a lot of charlatans throughout the history of the world. And none of us are going to be able to eradicate this earth from cult members, whether it, there's still cult members to this day that are trapped inside religious type groups or other groups that even follow and QAnon groups.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing that any of us can do it. And, with regard to Tim and Jesse, they want to make up things that could um, bring people in on the shock and awe value, and that is how they make a living. So if you give your money to them, then you're just going to be buying into all of the fantasy land that they could possibly think up.
I don't know what the situation is with Randy. The last I heard, her husband has a terminal illness, and every once in a while her name pops up on some of these silly postings to the courts. But other than that, um, it seems that she succeeded command and control of these other people, and she's just kind of sitting back and
She likes pretending she's a judge or a leader.
this judge thing, and
She's never been a judge.
using real estate terms in court proceedings is something that
She said on a volunteer board in a little small towns, like realtors can volunteer their time to sit on, like, a tax board or something, about the property assessor.
it's a one term,
Yeah.
one time,
And it's not
recorded.
elected. You volunteer for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I volunteer for a lot of things. I don't pretend that I'm a judge. And a tribal judge, that's a sovereign citizen term. So keep on using those terms. We know exactly who you are when you use things like that. But it's her prerogative. If she wants to go around lying to make friends, that's all right. A lot of people
I
do.
don't understand what Sawyer's doing. I would, I used to be a car dealer, and when I had people that owed me money, I got it quick. I've only had to use it a few times. But you can get contractors that for a percentage they'll collect it, um, and you can put a lien on something and haul off with it, without too much trouble. And the thing that hurts in judgments is you can put a lien on a house or property, any real estate, and that lien prevents that property from being sold. Even if you don't collect the money, it's frozen in place. You can't do anything with it because
That would be a lease pendants.
Mhm. You gotta pay. You gotta clear the lease before you can sell it. And
Yep.
so that's what Sawyer needs to do: is start putting liens on stuff. Oh, she's in Tennessee now. She's moving around. Because I heard she was out in the Dakota someplace. But
So tomorrow, hopefully that will be a eventful day. I'm hoping for some of the testimony about the facts of the crime, so I could learn a little bit more, things that I do not know, because I don't know everything about this particular case, but I'm learning a lot, and I'll be typing up everything. I don't know if it's allowed if I do social media. I'm not a big tweeter anyway. I don't do Facebook a lot.
you can
So
transcribe.
I sit there and I just type notes with my tablet, and
You
then
can
I went over
transcribe. You
my
just can't
notes. Yeah,
broadcast.
yeah. I'm not broadcasting anything, and I haven't
I
tweeted.
know.
I don't think I tweeted anything
I know
today.
that, to court cases that I've gone to where I just sit there and watch, there'll be a mainstream media person there with his laptop and he's just going to town.
But I am, like, from time to time, as I was, typing my notes, I would send it to a few friends of mine who were curious as to what was going on in the trial. And that was Paula Blades and Alex and Levi. I was sending them kind of the updates of what things that I was hearing on breaks and things like that. So they were kind of, if anybody's curious about what's happening during the day tomorrow, I'm sure that Levi, Paula Blades, or Alex could let you know. I know Levi might be, I don't know if he's going to be out of pocket tomorrow. But definitely Paula and Alex, you could give them a shout. I'll be sending them just updates whenever there's a break.
Yeah, and to answer Fireman's question, I will be here until Saturday. Um, if the trial ends on Friday and we have jury deliberations, that you know if it bleeds over to Saturday. But several times during the various arguments today, the prosecution has stated that they's going to have this trial done by Friday.
Yeah, so they are planning on slicing their witness list in more than half. And they're
This
going
is
to
going
be
to be a
using
rocket docket. I think
very few witnesses.
I think they are confident enough that they have enough forensic evidence and the witnesses there that they can just fly with it with Neely screwing herself.
Yeah, I don't think Neely, because she fired her attorney and was listening to people like the Canadian woman, I don't think that she actually subpoenaed any witnesses. So now she's in a first degree murder case, and she didn't subpoena a single witness on her own behalf. Good job.
Shar, I will be updating every night. 9 o'clock. We'll be here tomorrow night. And with her maybe. And I will update 9 o'clock just like we're doing now. And this is going to be the format through the week.
I might have to just appear. If I'm going to appear, I'm going to be driving probably back home.
Mhm.
So I might be able to call on the phone or something. But
Yeah, you can call in and I can bring the audio in.
okay.
So that's not hard to do. Um, yeah, she's pro se. She's representing herself, and it's like we alluded to earlier. The judge pleaded with her. You need to get either a public defender or a regular attorney,
Yeah.
and you're really risking a lot, and you're at a big disadvantage to proceed on something as major as a capital murder case, and she would not back down.
It's because of the few people that are in her ear that have convinced her that, that her attorney was somehow against her and was one of the people that was also after Trump, and she's linking herself to Trump. Believe me, this might be a significant crime, but this is not a significant happening in the world. None of those people know Trump. I have personally confirmed that. So if anyone believes they've ever spoken to Trump or they know Trump, they are being misled. I've personally confirmed that. So this poor lady who's facing the first, not poor lady, but facing a first degree murder trial, who desperately needed an attorney, was convinced to fire her attorney and to attempt to represent herself in, the most important event and happening in her life, one that could bring her, to take her away from her children for her lifetime.
Yeah, somebody needs to, like Paula and Laurie say, get a family member to whisper in her ear and beat her over the head what it takes to get a lawyer. Because, she might be able to get 20 years to life with a possibility of parole at the end of 20 years or during the 20 years. There's, even a first degree capital murder can get you 20 to life.
Well, she might have been able to successfully put on the temporary insanity defense, with a lawyer. They're good lawyers,
because, the witness that the lawyer was going to bring in is a renowned expert on temporary insanity. He studied it. He specializes in it. He's testified in trials, so he knows what he's doing. And she kicked him out of the barn.
That's right.
Because when she fired the lawyer, she fired the psychiatrist right along with him.
And again, I'm not feeling sorry for Neely, because I believe that she, intentionally murdered Chris Hallett, and she was not temporarily insane. So, but I do believe that everybody deserves their day in court and deserves due process and deserves capable legal representation. And because of her so-called friends, she's not going to have any of that. They are solely responsible for that.
Twinkle, she can get a lawyer at any time. The judge has stated that she is going to, every single solitary day, plead with her to get a lawyer. She's legally obligated to do that. That before trial starts for the next 4 days, the judge is going to tell Neely she should, for her own good, get a lawyer and so forth. Because she could get exculpatory evidence in if she got a lawyer who could properly do this. Because the statutes are one thing, but if you can get one juror to say,
Yes.
I disagree,
Yep.
it's done. You've got to have a majority before you can say guilty, not guilty. It's all it takes is 1 out of 12 to put the brakes on everything.
And that would give you a hung jury.
Yeah.
And we all know that that would then yield a mistrial. A mistrial would be declared by the judge, and then the state would have the opportunity to retry Neely. But no one wants to do that. It's a very expensive endeavor for the state. They have to hire experts. They have to, there's court resources involved.
Yeah, because I would think that if she does get a mistrial, I think the prosecution would try to come up with a way to plea bargain, maybe 20 years to life, or knock it down to second degree or voluntary manslaughter, something along those lines, where it would be a shorter term, sufficient punishment. She could get out in time to have a life with her family before everybody's too young or too old to do anything. Yeah, because she's going to miss the way things are going now. She's going to miss a lot of things: weddings, graduations, births of children, all of this. She's going to miss this stuff because of what's going on here. And this is what people need to tell her. They say, you're missing all this stuff. I mean, don't you want to see your daughters get married and have children and grandchildren and all this? So, there's a lot to think about here. Because she's not going to be able to do much in the gray walls. And the only thing she's going to see out of a woman's prison in Florida is a cow pasture.
And people can post, things like that the indictment is fake, or that this is all fake, or that this was a setup of Neely. The indictment was not fake. A grand jury was impaneled, and they indicted Neely Blanchard. And that indictment was read today to the jury pool. So not once did Neely state that the indictment was fake. If it was, her attorney would have, of course, said something if she had one, and she did not have one. So all of these cockamamie ideas of indictments being fake, and I mean, come on, it's simply ridiculous. You could be a third grader and not believe some of the things that is posted over there on Telegram. You literally have to be of moronic intelligence to believe just about anything over there. It's so off the reservation and out of this world that you just have to wonder who in the world um, could believe in these ridiculous things that not a fifth grader would believe in. It is simply ridiculous. They could at least try to be a little bit more realistic about their claims, but we're dealing in unicorns, purple with polka dots. That's where we're at over there.
Yeah, it's
It's awful.
Yeah, there's some strange people over there, and there's a lot of one thing I've noticed on that particular blog is there's a lot of racism, there's a lot of bigotry. They're doing a rather stupid attack on Michelle Obama right now, which that's and their comment section is all full of anti-Semitic remarks and so forth. So it's just this sort of thing isn't going away, but you try and just marginalize them as much as you can, and it's going to come to a point because this trial is going to end, and it's probably going to end not well for Neely, and people are just going to walk away from it.
Yep.
There's more. There's the public's attention span when it comes to this stuff is relatively short. And
I even saw the other day one of those people say something like, "Oh, Neely is brilliant. She's getting all the evidence into court." No, she got no evidence into court today. I was sitting there. If you'd like to come and watch and listen, she got no evidence into court. She hasn't filed any evidence to be admitted in court. She didn't know how, and the only people that are getting evidence in the court are the state attorneys against Neely. This isn't brilliance. This isn't something to do with Trump. This has nothing to do with politics. That is a lie. And anyone believes that, please hear me. It's a lie. It's false. It has nothing to do with this. Is a murder trial like any others. And Neely is not getting in any evidence about child trafficking. She was stopped every single time. She even mentioned child trafficking or anything political. In fact, she didn't even mention it once. She knew because she couldn't even ask people if they were Christian. So the judge isn't letting, and that's not what happens in the real world. I hope people over on Telegram understand that. And maybe they don't. Maybe they're really insane themselves.
Yeah,
But
well,
they're doing such a disservice.
I think the people are stuck in their belief system.
Every defendant deserves better than
The
this.
fireman asked if Neely's husband was there. No, he was not. The only people there was her sister and mother, and some individual. I'm not sure what. He's local. I've heard of him, but I'm not sure who he is. And yes, she is deciding, making her own decisions, but they're bad ones, and it's based on bad advice she's getting from people over in the cult.
She would have been done better with Google. I mean, because she had the personality. She's very outgoing. She's well spoken. She's just very personable. She would have been better off, seriously, looking up things on Google than to listen to anyone over there on Telegram. They threw her under the bus today.
They
It was
her.
clear. And if she didn't know that, I'm sorry. Then go ahead and do your trial yourself.
Yeah, because it's
if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, she's playing major leagues with Pee Wee league skills, and that's not going to turn out well at all. But tomorrow's another day. This is when the fireworks really start, so it's going to be an interesting day. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm going to shut down because it's getting late and I got to get down to the motel and get some sleep. I will be at the courthouse tomorrow along with Kim, and we'll start this all over again. And, we'll see what happens. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and share. And stay tuned for day number 2.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.